share the same goal?
No, you don't. This may be the understatement of the year. President Barack Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not agree on virtually anything important.
To achieve a two-state solution in which Israelis and Palestinians are living side by side in peace and security.
So Obama, first of all, wants a Palestinian state. He knows that's the absolute precondition to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict. And he wants it during his first term at the White House. Then, Obama needs Iran, because he wants a smoother withdrawal from Iraq and less of a mess in Afghanistan. Iran, by the way, accepts a two-state solution if the Palestinians want it.
If we resume negotiations, as we plan to do, then I think that the Palestinians will have to recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
Jewish state? Israel is a multicultural state. There are 500,000 non-Jewish Russians and Ukrainians in Israel. 20% of the population is Arab. Very religious Jews, they're actually a minority. And that's like demanding the world to accept the US as a Christian state.
I think we can envision an arrangement where Palestinians and Israelis live side by side in dignity, in security, and in peace.
Arrangement? This is Bibi speak for settlements expanding forever on Palestinian land and no Palestinian state. Israeli settlers are all over Bibi's government.
Israel is going to have to take some difficult steps as well. We have to make progress on settlements. That settlements have to be stopped in order for us to move forward.
Bibi won't fight these colonizers. He'll keep what he says is the natural growth of Israel's settlements. And he won't share Jerusalem with the Palestinians. East Jerusalem is part of Palestine. Israeli squatters, they have been colonizing the West Bank since 1967. The UN, the whole world for that matter, everybody knows this is an illegal occupation and colonization.
I want to make it clear that we don't want to govern the Palestinians. We want to live in peace with them. We want them to govern themselves, absent a handful of powers that could endanger the state of Israel.
The Likud party doesn't need Palestinians. Its agenda is to grab, as it is grabbing, Palestinian land and Palestinian natural resources. With Bibi and Barack on a collision course, Bibi's strategy is always to change the subject.
The worst danger we face is that Iran would develop nuclear military capabilities. It threatens the moderate Arab regimes in the Middle East. It threatens U.S. interests worldwide.
Bibi wants to bomb Iran and try to destroy its nuclear plants. This is exactly what would push Iran to go for a nuclear weapon, something that it is not doing, according to the latest US intelligence. Not to mention that Iran has the reach to make life for the US a living hell, worse than already is, in both Iraq and Afghanistan. According to the latest IAEA report, Iran can produce low-enriched uranium at a level of less than 5%. One needs 90% to start building a nuclear device. But war on Iran is still not off Obama's table. Even though the head of the IAEA, Mohammed El-Baradei, is very alarmed. US corporate media, oh, they love playing up the Iranian threat. So Bibi and his right-wing government, they'll keep doing everything to change the subject from Palestine. And articles such as these, very rare in the US, they show us why. Bibi's terrified that Iran will engage in serious negotiations. In this case, Iran will insist on the Middle East as a nuclear weapon-free zone. This would mean Israel unveiling the worst-kept secret of the last 40 years, that Israel is a nuclear power. Israel might have to shut down its own Dimona reactor as Iran stops enriching uranium at its Natanz plant. Iran has signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT. Israel has not. Israel simply cannot demand that Iran stops enriching uranium. In this case, Israel will have to give up its 150 nuclear warheads. Some in the US have tried to dig deeper inside Bibi's mind. But this still follows a very clever Israel lobby agenda. The idea is to make Bibi sound pragmatic and acceptable to a large American audience. Even though, if we read this article very carefully, Bibi sounds more of an apocalyptic psycho than Ahmadinejad. So the Bibi line is that progress on the Palestinian front only happens after dealing with the, I quote, existential threat of the Iranian nuclear program.
If there is a linkage between Iran and the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, I personally believe it actually runs the other way. To the extent that we can make peace with the Palestinians, between the Palestinians and the Israelis, then I actually think it strengthens our hand in the international community in dealing with the potential Iranian threat.
The roadmap, anyway, seems to be clear. A little talk, a deadline, then more sanctions. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, she has promised, I quote, crippling sanctions if nothing happens before the deadline. But the State Department, they deny there is a deadline. But in fact, this is what is really worrying.
We're not going to have talks forever. We're not going to create a situation in which talks become an excuse for inaction while Iran proceeds with developing a nuclear and deploying a nuclear weapon.
Obama seems to assume that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon. And buried in the press conference, the Barack-Bibi press conference, the transcript, there's this nugget. Netanyahu is saying to Obama, Mr. President, I appreciate your firm commitment to ensure that Iran does not develop nuclear military capability, and also your statement that you are leaving all options on the table. Is Barack being played by Bibi and the Israel lobby? The signs are ominous. This document, written by the neocons at the Bipartisan Policy Center, is no less than a roadmap to war on Iran. And it was signed by Dennis Ross, the State Department point man on Iran. And at the latest AIPAC meeting in Washington, the focus was on this bill, a prodigy of doublethink disguising even harsher sanctions on Iran, banning US companies from providing Iran with refined petroleum products, and punishing European companies if they do it. What kind of dialogue is that? So what's the bottom line? Obama wants a peace deal in Palestine. Bibi doesn't. Obama is willing to talk to Iran. Bibi isn't. It remains to be seen how Obama may convince Bibi that the answer to every Israeli problem is not to go on a bombing spree. Obama talks to the Muslim world in Cairo in early June. There couldn't be a better time to tell the Muslim world, and the whole world for that matter, that he really means business.
Donate today and receive a new documentary film available to members of the Real News Network. The History of the National Security State with legendary author Gore Vidal. Bonus features of the DVD include an in-depth response to Vidal from ex-CIA analyst Ray McGovern, who served under 7 U.S. presidents, an exclusive interview with Colin Powell's former Chief of Staff Larry Wilkerson, and an insightful interview with oil policy analyst Antonia Juhas.
The news magazine of the screen. Living glimpses of history in the making.
Hollywood and Washington is a symbiotic relationship. They both deal with illusions. Reality doesn't often play much of a part. I think I saw through the myth of the Cold War almost from the beginning. I was a Washington political kid from a political family. Roosevelt first had radio because he had this great speaking voice and everyone liked to hear. Truman proceeded to break every arrangement that Roosevelt had set up for a peaceful coexistence. And Truman thought that it would be a good idea. Why not just stay armed all the time? And then he devised the national security state. You've got to go up and swear allegiance to the United States or else you're a commie. I mean, we had imported fascism. We get Dwight Eisenhower, who said that we have this great military industrial complex. It is a dangerous thing. And he said this is going to change everything. And the way our country is governed, it's going to change us politically. Along comes Jack Kennedy, who wanted to make his mark, believed in the Cold War. But he said, in this kind of politics, it is the appearance of things that matters. I think everybody should take a sober look at the world about us. The national security state still exists, only it isn't communism anymore, it's terrorism. This is the most serious thing that has happened in the history of the United States. Knowledge is power. We need an honest news system.
We need the real news.
This is the sort of thing we can build right now without anyone else's permission from the government or from the business community. It's the power's in our hands.
If we're not going to sleepwalk into more wars, we think we need to start with a television news network that won't bow to pressure and has the courage to seek facts. And that means independent economics. And that's why we need you.
Make a tax-deductible donation now of at least $10 a month or a one-time give of at least $75. As a thank you for your support, we will send you the new documentary film, The History of the National Security State.